What if your head coach publicly admitted he's okay with settling for less, and your franchise quarterback was built to dominate everything? That's exactly what happened in Cleveland. One quote revealed a ceiling mentality that may have held back Shedeur Sanders, and the story behind it is explosive. Kevin Stefanski didn't just leave Cleveland, he left a ceiling. And not just a figurative one. The kind of ceiling that quietly shapes a locker room, limits ambition, and makes even talented players question what's possible. At his very first press conference with the Atlanta Falcons, Stefanski said something simple, almost casual. "You can't be good at everything." Read that again. Let it sink in. This wasn't a strategy breakdown. It wasn't about allocation of resources or depth chart priorities. This was the head coach of an NFL team telling the world that settling for mediocrity in certain areas is not only acceptable, it's expected. For a franchise like Cleveland, with a rookie quarterback like Shedeur Sanders on the rise, that mentality should have set off alarm bells. Sanders wasn't raised to accept ceilings. Deion Sanders built him to dominate every phase of the game, every rep, every matchup, every room he walks into. You pair that DNA with a coach who openly believes you can't excel everywhere, and you create a tension that's invisible on the stat sheet but catastrophic on the field. Think about it, every young quarterback in the league is trying to find a rhythm, trying to push the boundaries of their game. And yet, under Stefanski, the message was already written before the season even began. Don't expect perfection everywhere. Some things will lag, some areas can coast. That's not just coaching, that's culture setting. That's a philosophy seeping into practices, meetings, and game day decisions. And a competitor like Shedeur Sanders doesn't just chafe against that. He risks frustration, stagnation, and being forced into situations where his ceiling is defined by someone else's comfort level. Cleveland saw it coming. They didn't just let Stefanski go because of wins or losses. They recognized that a quarterback like Sanders deserves a staff that pushes, challenges, and demands excellence across the board. They replaced a coach who accepted ceilings with one who refuses to even acknowledge failure in his vocabulary. That contrast isn't subtle, it's stark. It's a cultural pivot, a complete shift in expectations, and it sets the stage for what could be a transformative environment in Cleveland. Stefanski's words weren't just an offhand comment. They were a mirror for why the Browns struggled to take the next step and why Shedeur Sanders might have suffocated under that system. Cleveland isn't playing not to lose anymore. They're building a house that expects its players to push limits. Stefanski's ceiling, Cleveland walked away from it. And now, everything Sanders does in this system starts from a completely different level. Cleveland didn't just fire Kevin Stefanski. They flipped the entire narrative. Enter Todd Monken, a first-time head coach with fire in his eyes and a vocabulary that doesn't even include the word failure. From the moment Monken stepped to the podium, it was clear. This isn't the same Cleveland team and this isn't the same culture. When asked what would make him unsuccessful, Monken didn't hesitate. "That's not even in my vocabulary, it just is." Boom, instant energy shift. Instant cultural reset. This is the difference between a team that plays not to lose and a team that plays to win. Stefanski's message of ceilings and limitations is gone, replaced by a mindset that demands accountability, excellence, and a refusal to accept mediocrity anywhere. For a quarterback like Shedeur Sanders, whose competitive DNA was forged under Deion Sanders' philosophy of domination in every phase, this is exactly the environment he needs. Sanders isn't built to settle. He thrives when everyone around him is pushing, hungry, and relentless. Monken's arrival signals that Cleveland is finally giving him that chance. But the Browns didn't stop there. They brought in Mike Rutenberg as defensive coordinator, and calling him smart doesn't even scratch the surface. This is a coach widely respected as one of the sharpest minds in football. His resume is littered with dominance. Under Rutenberg, the Jets led the NFL in total defense, passing defense, and ranking top 5 in sacks and tackles for loss. His teaching ability is legendary, and players love him. Falcons quarterback Michael Penny Jr. once called him a dog, and Rutenberg's response? "I effing know." That exchange says everything about the kind of confidence and leadership he brings, the kind that resonates with young quarterbacks and fuels locker room buy-in. The beauty, continuity. The Browns kept the bulk of their defensive staff intact. Same position coaches, same coverage philosophy, same physical man-heavy approach. What changed is precision, disguises, adjustments, and back-end creativity that only Rutenberg could bring. Cleveland has effectively upgraded without disruption, blending familiarity with a new level of excellence. In one offseason, Cleveland replaced a head coach whose ceiling limited growth, added a first-time coach with a no-failure mindset, and brought in a defensive mastermind capable of elevating every game. For Shedeur Sanders, this isn't just a staff, it's a launchpad. The Browns aren't rebuilding cautiously. They're building boldly, setting a foundation for a quarterback who refuses to accept anything less than greatness. Cleveland didn't just replace a head coach, they completely rewrote their defensive identity. Enter Mike Rutenberg, the new defensive coordinator, a coach already being called one of the sharpest minds in the NFL. The move immediately changes the landscape for a young quarterback like Shedeur Sanders, and it signals a level of preparation and intelligence that Cleveland has been missing. Rutenberg isn't some unproven rookie. He's a teacher of the game, a strategist, a man who helped the Jets' defense rise from mediocrity to the very top of the league. Under his guidance, the Jets led the NFL in total defense, passing defense, and ranked top 5 in sacks and tackles for loss. This isn't just stats, it's dominance in every phase. What's even more impressive is the respect he commands from players and peers alike. Falcons quarterback Michael Penny Jr. once called him a dog, and Rutenberg's response, "I effing know. That's confidence, that's leadership. That's the type of energy you want surrounding a young quarterback who's still carving out his place in the league." Players respond to that intensity, they feed off it, and for Shedeur Sanders, it's the perfect environment to grow, experiment, and thrive. Cleveland didn't stop at talent alone, they kept continuity. The bulk of the defensive staff remains intact. Same position coaches, same systems. Same physical man-heavy approach that defined the Browns' defense last season. But now, there's an added layer of creativity and detail work. Rutenberg is introducing disguises, complex rotations, and back-end schemes that confuse quarterbacks in ways the previous staff couldn't. It's the perfect blend of familiarity and innovation. Players aren't starting over, they're leveling up. This hire is more than just a coaching upgrade. It's a strategic statement. The Browns are signaling that they will protect their quarterback, control the field, and win games with a defense that doesn't allow mistakes to snowball. For a young quarterback like Sanders, that's everything. Pressure is the enemy of development, and a smart, disciplined, elite defense buys time, creates opportunities, and builds confidence. In one move, Cleveland has turned a potential vulnerability into a strength. They didn't just hire a coordinator, they brought in a playmaker, a teacher, a strategist, and a motivator. This is the kind of environment that makes young quarterbacks feel supported, challenged, and ready to dominate. Rutenberg's arrival isn't just a hire, it's a promise. The Browns are serious, and this defense is now built to elevate the offense, not just survive on its own. Cleveland's defensive overhaul isn't just about bringing in a superstar coordinator, it's about balance. Mike Rutenberg arrives with a reputation as a football genius, but the Browns didn't throw out everything that worked last season. The same defensive staff, the same position coaches, the same foundation remain. Players won't have to relearn schemes or adjust to a completely new philosophy. That continuity is critical, especially for a team integrating a young quarterback like Shedeur Sanders. He needs stability around him to develop, and Cleveland made sure he gets exactly that. But don't mistake continuity for stagnation. Rutenberg is adding layers of creativity that were missing. The Browns' defense still leans on its physical, man-heavy approach, but now there's nuance in every call. Disguises, coverage rotations, and back-end tricks are being introduced to confuse opposing quarterbacks in ways the old staff never attempted. The goal isn't to reinvent the wheel, it's to take a working system and supercharge it with intelligence. Quarterbacks who thought they had a read on Cleveland's defense will now be guessing, hesitating, and second-guessing every snap. That kind of subtle complexity can win games on its own. Players love it, that's not just hearsay. Rutenberg has a history of commanding respect in the locker room without intimidation. He leads through understanding, preparation, and clear strategy. His previous units at the Jets ranked first in total defense, first in passing yards allowed, and top 5 in sacks and tackles for loss. The system produced results, but more importantly, it built confidence in players. They understood the plan, trusted their assignments, and executed at a high level. That's exactly the environment Shedeur Sanders will walk into. He doesn't just need talent around him, he needs intelligence and structure. Rutenberg delivers both. Here's the genius of Cleveland's approach. They didn't just hire a coordinator, they created a seamless upgrade. The foundation stays intact, but every detail now has the potential to elevate performance. It's familiarity paired with ingenuity, comfort with challenge. Young players aren't forced to adjust to a new philosophy, they're challenged to rise within one they already know. That's the type of environment that accelerates growth, builds confidence, and reduces the margin for errors that can derail a young quarterback. This isn't just a coaching hire, it's a strategic message. Cleveland is telling the league, we're building around our quarterback intelligently. With Rutenberg calling the shots, the defense can cover gaps, force turnovers, and take pressure off the offense. Mistakes won't cascade into losses. Instead, the system supports the quarterback, creates opportunities, and allows him to thrive without being overexposed. In one move, Cleveland achieved continuity, added innovation, and strengthened their young quarterback's environment. Rutenberg's arrival guarantees not just a smarter defense, but a platform for Shedeur Sanders to grow, dominate, and eventually change the trajectory of the franchise. Cleveland isn't just changing names on the coaching staff, They're changing culture, and that matters more than most people realize. The Stefanski era wasn't just a coaching issue, it was a ceiling issue. When a head coach tells the world unprompted that you can't be good at everything, he's sending a message to the locker room: settle for less, accept limitations, and don't expect perfection. That mindset seeps into practices, game planning, and every decision made under pressure. For a young quarterback like Shedeur Sanders, who's built on dominance, confidence, and a refusal to accept mediocrity, that type of culture isn't just frustrating, it's suffocating. Enter Todd Monken. From the moment he walked into his first press conference, he set a new tone. Asked what would make him unsuccessful, his response was simple: failure isn't in his vocabulary. That one sentence does more than inspire, it rewires the room. Every player, every assistant, every rookie quarterback hears that and knows the expectation: aim higher, work harder, and never settle. This is the environment Shedeur needs, one that matches his DNA, his competitive instincts, and his hunger to excel in every play, every phase, every rep. Culture isn't abstract, it's measurable in confidence and performance. A quarterback thrives when he knows the coaches around him are thinking bigger, acting smarter, and expecting excellence. Monken's mindset paired with Rutenberg's genius defensive system creates an ecosystem where Shedeur can focus on growth, not firefighting systemic weaknesses. He doesn't have to carry games on his own or compensate for a ceiling imposed by staff. The staff carries the blueprint, he executes. And when a young quarterback feels supported, mistakes are learning opportunities, not career-defining failures. That's the subtle shift Cleveland has achieved. It's not about being perfect, no team is, but it's about striving for perfection, creating standards, and eliminating excuses. As Stefanski accepted limits publicly, Monken rejects them entirely. Players notice, rookies notice, quarterbacks notice. Shedeur Sanders walks into this system knowing he's not just the talent centerpiece, he's part of a culture that refuses to tolerate underperformance. That's how elite quarterbacks become transcendent. They're surrounded by staff and systems that amplify their strengths while covering gaps intelligently. And the impact isn't just immediate, it's generational. Culture shifts create momentum that carries forward beyond one season. Young players adopt these standards. Upper-level staff reinforce them, and the franchise builds a track record of expectation, execution, and accountability. Shedeur isn't inheriting a team afraid to fail. He's inheriting a team built to win, built to push him to grow, and built to make every quarterback decision matter strategically, not politically. Cleveland's move is as much about Shedeur Sanders as it is about the franchise identity. They've replaced limitations with ambition, ceiling with vision, and mediocrity with purpose. For fans and analysts, it's easy to see this as a simple coaching hire, but the truth runs deeper. This is the foundation of sustained success, the environment where a young quarterback isn't merely surviving, he's positioned to thrive. And that's why this isn't just a coaching story. It's a quarterback development story, a culture story, and a blueprint for Cleveland's future. Shedeur Sanders now steps into a system aligned with his mindset, supported by staff who refuse to settle, and surrounded by a culture built on accountability and excellence. For the first time, the ceiling is gone. For Shedeur Sanders, this isn't just a coaching change, it's a complete reset of the environment around him. Under Kevin Stefanski, the message was subtle but dangerous: you can't be good at everything. That kind of mindset filters down through every meeting, every practice, every play call. Quarterbacks don't just react to talent, they react to culture, to expectations, to how their coaches value perfection versus compromise. And for a young quarterback like Shedeur, whose DNA screams dominance, Stefanski's ceiling mentality wasn't just a roadblock, it was a straight-up mismatch. Now imagine walking into the same building and hearing Todd Monken's philosophy: failure isn't even a word I use. From the very first press conference, the tone is different. Every player in that room immediately understands the expectation: work harder, aim higher, never settle. For Shedeur Sanders, that creates freedom. Freedom to maximize his talent without fighting the ceiling imposed by the staff. Freedom to focus on development instead of firefighting systemic weaknesses. Freedom to be the player his father, Deion Sanders, raised him to be: relentless, confident, and hungry for mastery at every level of the game. But it isn't just about Monken's energy, it's about the supporting cast he brought in. Mike Rutenberg, widely regarded as one of the smartest defensive minds in football, is now calling plays for Cleveland. Rutenberg doesn't just bring creativity, he brings a system that takes pressure off the offense, limits opponent scoring, and allows a young quarterback to grow without carrying the team on his shoulders every single drive. Shedeur doesn't have to be perfect, but the staff around him is. That alignment between talent and environment is what separates good quarterbacks from elite ones. And it gets better. The Browns didn't tear everything down, they kept continuity in the defensive coaching staff, preserving the system while adding Rutenberg's detail work, disguises, and secondary creativity. That combination of familiarity and innovation is critical. Quarterbacks need consistency in their environment, but they also need intelligence and adaptability around them. Shedeur now has both. Culture in this context isn't abstract, it's measurable in confidence, execution, and growth. A quarterback in a ceiling mindset walks into a locker room feeling limited, constrained, second-guessed. A quarterback in a winning, ambitious environment walks in feeling supported, challenged, and elevated. Shedeur Sanders now steps into a room where the staff's ambition matches his own, where mistakes are learning opportunities, and where excellence is the standard, not an option. The ripple effect is immediate and long-term. Short-term, Shedeur gets better with every practice, every rep, every drive. Long-term, he's developing in a culture that reinforces winning behaviors, accountability, and elite standards. That alignment between quarterback and environment is what franchises like the Chiefs and Buccaneers built around their stars, and now Cleveland is building the same blueprint. So here's the bottom line. Shedeur Sanders isn't just inheriting a new coaching staff, he's inheriting a system built to unlock his potential. Gone is the ceiling, gone is the acceptance of mediocrity, gone is the culture that held this franchise back. What's left is a young quarterback, a hungry staff, and a blueprint designed for growth, success, and dominance. For the first time in his NFL career, the environment isn't working against him, it's working for him. And that difference could be the moment Cleveland finally unleashes Shedeur Sanders the way the league has been waiting to see. The ripple effect of this coaching overhaul isn't just inside the building, it's everywhere fans and media pay attention. For years, Cleveland's narrative was predictable, promising talent, high draft picks, and yet a ceiling seemed to hover over the team like a shadow. Every decision, every misstep, every close but not quite season became fuel for critics. Shedeur Sanders stepping onto that field meant dealing not just with opponents, but with a history of scrutiny that had shaped the perception of this franchise for a decade. And now, with the ceiling gone, the lens through which fans and media view this team is about to change dramatically. Think about the social media explosion. Rumors, hot takes, and viral clips have always dominated Brown's discussions. Under a Stefanski, every incomplete pass, every defensive lapse, every offensive hiccup was amplified. Fans complained about missed opportunities, critics dissected every snap, and rookie quarterbacks like Shedeur Sanders were scrutinized as if the weight of the franchise rested solely on their shoulders. That kind of pressure is real. It shapes confidence. It changes the way players execute under stress. And for Shedeur, the narrative was often stacked against him before he even threw his first NFL pass. Now the conversation starts to pivot. With Monken's leadership and Rutenberg's defensive genius, fans finally have something tangible to rally around. The narrative shifts from "can this quarterback survive?" to "how high can he take this franchise?" Analysts now have a new story: continuity, innovation, and culture aligned with talent. And that matters because perception drives everything in the NFL. Ticket sales, media coverage, fan engagement, social media momentum, they all respond to a sense of belief. Belief that this isn't just another rebuild, but a true attempt to win, to dominate, to redefine expectations in Cleveland. Media dynamics are even more fascinating. Think about how journalists approach narratives. They love a clear storyline: rising star, broken system, redemption arc. Stefanski's ceiling mentality was an easy headline: Browns coach admits limits, quarterback suffers. But Monken flipping the script changes the angle completely. Headlines will now highlight a culture of excellence, a staff committed to maximum output, and a rookie quarterback entering a system built to succeed. For fans who follow the drama, it's a shift from frustration to anticipation. Every training camp clip, every preseason throw, every strategic adjustment now carries weight. The narrative itself becomes part of the game. Social media reactions are crucial. Fans are no longer just complaining, they're speculating, hyping, and theorizing. Rumors about Monken's strategies, Rutenberg's defensive tricks, and Shedeur's growth spark debates. Some will say it's too early to know, some will believe Cleveland finally got it right. And that spectrum of opinion creates engagement, the exact fuel higher attention content thrives on. Each viral moment, each controversial take, each clip of Shedeur excelling now has context. The media and fans are watching not just the plays, but the environment shaping those plays. This alignment between media, fan perception, and internal culture is rare in Cleveland. Historically, promising quarterbacks faced systemic skepticism. Now the team can control the narrative in ways it hasn't in years. Fans see accountability, ambition, and strategy. Analysts see structure, philosophy, and talent maximization. And Shedeur Sanders, he benefits quietly but profoundly. Pressure becomes focus. Criticism becomes motivation. Every eye in the stands, every hot take online, every headline now reinforces an environment geared toward growth, not excuses. In short, the fan and media landscape is no longer a cage, it's a launch pad. The ceiling is gone and perception now aligns with potential. Cleveland's narrative has shifted from survival mode to a culture of expectation, and everyone watching from the stadium to Twitter timelines is part of that transformation. For Shedeur Sanders, the difference isn't just coaching, it's the world around him finally matching the level of ambition he brings every single day. Now let's take a step back and look at the full picture. Cleveland didn't just make a routine coaching change. They ripped the old ceiling mentality out at its roots, replacing it with a culture that actively rejects limits. As Stefanski's public admission, "You can't be good at everything," wasn't just a slip of the tongue, it was a crystallization of why the Browns had struggled for years. A quarterback like Shedeur Sanders, a prodigy raised to dominate every rep, every matchup, every single room he enters, simply couldn't thrive under that mindset. Mediocrity as a guiding philosophy, that's a chokehold on potential. And now, it's gone. Todd Monken's arrival signals more than a new coach. It signals an entirely different philosophy. Failure isn't even in his vocabulary. That alone sets the tone for a locker room that has been starved of ambition. Every play, every practice, every adjustment now carries an expectation of excellence. Combine that with Mike Rutenberg, a defensive mind regarded by peers as a generational strategist, and suddenly Cleveland's environment transforms from one of compromise to one of precision. A young quarterback like Shedeur doesn't just inherit a playbook. He inherits a culture built to elevate him. He inherits coaches who don't settle, systems designed to maximize every asset, and continuity that ensures stability while introducing elite creativity in key areas. And that's where the stakes get fascinating. Fans and media alike are watching closely. Social media is already buzzing with theories, hot takes, and viral moments because narrative drives engagement in today's NFL. Cleveland's story has shifted from "Can this rookie survive?" to "How high can he take this team?" Analysts are no longer simply critiquing talent, they're tracking culture, philosophy, and alignment. Every decision from draft picks to in-game calls now carries meaning beyond the scoreboard. It's a living, breathing case study in how the right environment can accelerate development. Now imagine being Shedeur Sanders walking into this new landscape. The pressure hasn't disappeared, but it's reframed. Every challenge becomes an opportunity. Every critic becomes a motivator. Every fan reaction, every viral clip, every analyst column now has context. This is a quarterback operating in a system designed to amplify his strengths. And the beauty is the Browns didn't just swap personnel, they sent a message: excellence isn't optional. Mediocrity isn't tolerated. Growth, preparation, and ambition are the rules. That message filters down through every meeting, every practice, and every snap on game day. But here's the real intrigue. This isn't just about Shedeur Sanders or even this season. This is about Cleveland redefining its identity. For years, the Browns have been stuck in a cycle of high expectations and underwhelming results. Fans are tired of repeated patterns of promise followed by stagnation. Now, with this new leadership, continuity in the defensive staff, and a fresh offensive philosophy aligned with elite talent, the team is building something that could last decades if executed properly. They're creating a foundation where winning isn't accidental, it's intentional. And that's the question I leave you with. Will this environment unlock Shedeur Sanders' full potential? Can Cleveland finally match the ambition of its quarterback with the culture and leadership necessary to sustain success? Only time will tell. But one thing is undeniable: the ceiling that once stifled this franchise is gone. The Browns are no longer playing not to lose, they are playing to win. And every move from this point forward will be a statement. A statement about ambition, culture, and the future of a team that finally refuses to settle. So here's what I want from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe Cleveland got this right? Can Shedeur Sanders thrive in this new system, or is the NFL still too brutal at proving ground? Every perspective counts, and the conversation is just getting started. If you want to stay ahead of every coaching move, every roster update, and every explosive moment from Shedeur Sanders and the Browns, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Because this story isn't just unfolding, it's evolving, and you don't want to miss a single play of it. Cleveland has rewritten its blueprint, and the NFL world is watching.